This is Will Spencer from the Renaissance of Men here with the new 21 report and Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez. Good to see you, sir.
What's up, Will?
What number 21 convention is this for you?
I believe this is, 18, 19. I think this is number 4.
Number 4? Mm-hmm. What did you think about this year's convention compared to years past?
It's definitely evolved. It's matured. Like the male spear from when it started, let's say a decade and a half ago. Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, it started out as like guys that want to get girls. Didn't really struggle with that. Okay, and that's a real problem for a lot of men. But those guys are older now. That generation has, they've aged. Like the quality of the content has evolved. It's moved beyond obviously just being about getting sex. And this year was like, it's gotten more mature. This year was probably the most mature by far. Since I started attending this, where the quality and depth of conversation, it was political, it was philosophical, it was much more holistic.
Religious as well?
It was religious. It really covered sort of the breadth of like the human experience, the masculine experience. So that was really cool. Like it was just really cool to see like the conversations I had this year with the attendees and the other speakers were tremendous.
And you spoke at the 21 convention and the 22 convention, right?
Yeah, I did both.
What did you speak about at the 22 convention?
22 convention was very tame. I kept it very tame. Since anytime you're a man and like you're addressing a group of women, it's a different dynamic.
Right.
Obviously it is. And I wasn't really sure what to expect. I didn't go in this pretending like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to say. Like I wasn't sure if it was going to be a younger crowd of women, was it going to be older women, was it going to be was it going to be groupies, was it going to be women that just really wanted to hear what men had to say, was this going to be research on their part? So it was like a mixed crowd. And the content of that speech was, like I said, very simple. It was like roughly 20, 25 like journal life lessons for women from like paternal perspective, as I called it.
A paternal perspective.
Yeah, paternal perspective. Since my audience is obviously predominantly males, no kidding. It's about 80% men, 20% women. But my overall audience is over 100,000 people, so it's there's around 20, 25-ish thousand women that they listen to what I have to say. And the questions I've gotten the last few years from women are really not that dissimilar from men. It's just from a feminine, womanly, lived experience of being a girl. So I had created like an AMA sort of slideshow on Instagram actually months ago, where I'd done an AMA just for my female followers, and I asked them like, what would you like, girls only like ask questions, and a lot of the questions were it was like the guy questions, but just like I said, the girl version. This is like they want life advice. I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm 25, I'm 30, whatever the age. And they're trying to navigate career or finding a husband or their personal struggles with their own maturation development. And there's very little, I think, quality content for women that caters to that sort of like actual personal development. A lot of it's just feel good rah-rah kind of
There's
material.
a lot of good stuff on Instagram, but like it's a very limited platform. There's not a whole lot on YouTube. There's not a whole lot on Twitter. It's mostly on Instagram, but not of the content that's produced by 21.
No, and a lot of it, I've explored it a little bit, but a lot of it's just like what I call like chick crack. It's like, you're amazing, you're a goddess, you're special, you're a queen.
Chick crack.
Just because you exist, you deserve to be loved. There's nothing very constructive about it. It makes you feel good, but there's no actual direction as to how to improve yourself, change, do anything.
Well,
a lot of it.
The messaging is that women are perfect as they are, so why should they need to possibly improve anything, right?
Yeah, just live and magic happens for you.
Right.
So I created sort of like this series of questions and answers about those kinds of topics, and I just put that into the presentation I gave. And it was about, like I said, 20-ish, 25 lessons. It went over well. Like I could probably refine that speech a few times. And I would do it differently if I did it again next time. But the fact that there were women here that actually were receptive to this, listening to a man and like wanting to get a male perspective, that was very encouraging.
Yeah, many men, in fact. Did you have interactions with women outside of your talk? Did they ask you questions? Did they come up and talk to you?
I did. And they're, what I told them, like the journey is not dissimilar from men. Like, that's one of the things, like when we talk about masculine femininity, obviously there's obvious differences in the nature of energy, the nature of masculinity, the nature of being feminine. There are biological differences, like no kidding. Like that's all, that's
radical.
Yeah, that's all very scientific, honestly. There's nothing novel about that if you're an objective person. But there's a lot of shared experiences, and one of the things I was telling one of the young ladies that I was talking to was like your process of becoming like a woman, like you're already a woman. And I tell this to the men, like you're already a man. Like there's not such thing as like, well, I want to become a real man. I'm like, there's a such thing as being a better man. There's a such thing as being a more effective man. There's a such thing as being better at being a man, but you're already born a man. Yeah, it's not necessarily that of in itself, that biological identity. Like, you don't have to earn that related to title. Like, you're a man, you have XY chromosome.
Sure.
You're a woman, XX. Okay, like, you're a woman. Now, are you the type of woman that you'd like to be, living the life that you want? Yeah, maybe not. But the process of getting there is going to be very individual. And yeah, you can certainly pull from tradition. You can pull from maternal qualities. You can find that type of content. You can model yourself on that. But there's also going to be a mix as well, because we live in a modern world, and guess what? Like, life costs money. Like, you're not in a position probably in your 20s where it's like, wow, I don't want to work. Like, I just want to have a magical husband that makes 6 figures a year and live on a farm. Like, that's really nice if that happens. But the likelihood is you're probably going to have to date, vet, be discerning, get some experience interacting with men that way. And also, you have to support yourself financially. So, like, yeah, you do actually need to get a job. Like, no kidding. Does that mean you devote your life to your career for the next 35 years? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe it's more temporal. But you do need to work. Like, that has to happen. You can't be lazy.
The odds are that you're going to have to work.
Yeah, everyone has to work in this society. There's no such thing as disavowing that and thinking you're going to get away with not doing it. And that's what I was telling her. Like, so pull from what appeals to you. Develop your own individual character. Don't try to imitate something just for the sake of imitation. It was a good conversation.
You felt like the message landed?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What did you speak about at the 21 convention?
That was a lot more broad. Talking about this past year, coronavirus, pandemic, supply chain breakdown.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, this is all very familiar to us. Like, okay, the world's in crisis. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, it is. How do we make sense of that, and how do we effectively navigate the changing environment? What thinking paradigms do we need to have? What tools do we need to adopt? How do we position ourselves? And I tried to give a very holistic overview of sort of the reality of living in a liminal time period where there's not going to be a war tomorrow and everything fixes itself. There's not going to be a savior that appears and, this person's going to right the ship and everything's back to normal. Like, you have to prepare, when society is going through a period of decay and it's going through a transformative period, you have to prepare for the long haul, the long night, whatever you want to call it. Like, this is going to be a multi-decade experience. I use some examples from history. Let's say, like, the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire lasted for 700, 600 years. So the Ottoman Empire never went away. Today, it's the modern state of Turkey. So if there are people who have lived in Turkey, generationally, for probably hundreds of years. So they lived through, their family lineage lived through the rise of the empire, the static period, the decline, the fall. Turkey still exists as a country. Yet countries don't go away. I try to dispel like these very low resolution fallacies that people have. It's like, the United States is going to collapse. I'm like, no, it's not going to collapse. Countries very rarely ever collapse and completely disappear.
And not something of this scale.
No, not that scale. Russia was a communist country. USSR, right? Did that collapse? Economically, it collapsed. Is Russia still a country? Of course it is, because the people, they're still Russian people, and it still functions enough that people want to keep it going and remake it into something else. So the United States 50 years from now will no doubt not look like the United States today. What will it look like specifically? I don't know. I can't answer that. Do you need to be prepared for rapid change? Yes. Okay, so what does that look like? That looks like having control of your income. I have this running joke on Twitter and different platforms, like, quit your job, work for yourself. And I mean that because you need to have control over your earning power, and you have more flexibility running your own business, working, especially in the digital online space, living where you want to live, not allowing yourself to be subjugated to bad governance. Like, why you're going to put up that situation. You're not fighting it. You're basically just a refugee in your own land. Go, United States, 50 countries. Go to where you're treated best. Or go overseas if you want to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. People immigrate for very same reasons historically. Know what your relationships are. Create a network. Have friends. Have family. Have an information network where you can use that to accurately navigate the world. It's like networked intelligence. And that's almost what Twitter is now. Like, I mean this seriously. People don't take social media seriously, but you should. You can connect with people all over the world, over the country, all over different cities, towns, and you can get information, get intelligence, and know what's happening, have the curve. You can find people that have very good predictive powers, by way of intelligence, by way of field of study, It's like, okay, I kind of have some sense of what's going to happen. I can adequately prepare myself. I can change where I live. I know to stock up. I know not to be in this place and to be in that place. All that's possible for anybody. So I kind of covered that. I threw out the idea of creating cooperative networks of using cryptocurrency. Like you can create your own cooperative networks of basically economies. So you can create your own mini economy amongst yourselves. You can transact in Bitcoin or whatever different coins. That's not directly traceable, but it's not even about being traceable. It's the fact that you're doing business with people that you know on a transparent network. You can sort of bypass traditional banking. If you in the future get debanked, or let's say in the future the interest rates go negative, and now your dollars are actually losing dollars, storing in a bank. Well, now you have an alternative, and you have to think about all this. Obviously, I'm throwing a lot out here, but you can't afford to be naive. The government is not going to fix itself. No one's going to take care of you. Your governor in a lot of states, governors fucked people over basically.
Not your friend.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Well, it is. So you have to dispel with this shock and I can't believe it. It's everything that can get worse will get worse. Every right that can be taken from you will be taken from you. What are you going to do? It has to be something. It can't just be set in your ass and just hope it stops, because it's not.
Do you think that's, just to play devil's advocate for a second, do you think that's kind of black pill thinking?
I don't think so.
Nihilistic thinking, let's say. Okay.
No, I mean, this is being realistic. It's being realistic. The United States is not in a rising, ascending period. That's pretty much mutually agree upon that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, okay, does that mean it's like I said? Does that mean it's going to fall apart and it's going to be civil war tomorrow and the electricity is going to disappear and go away? No.
Grid down. Yeah.
It just means that you're going to live in a society where it's going through social decay. It's no longer cohesive. Are parts of the country still very high functioning? Absolutely. You can go to Idaho, Oklahoma. You can go to Florida. Life's normal. Like life is good.
Life's pretty normal.
Life's great. Life's great.
Center, yeah.
You would never know anything is wrong here unless maybe you go to the grocery store. It's like, well, food's expensive. Inflation is happening. Okay.
People are wearing masks for some reason.
Yeah. There are some people still, but life is going well. So even in the midst of like this sort of mega reaching narrative chaos, like things still tend to operate. The U.S. is not at the point of like, let's say, like the Balkan Wars.
Or
like that level of conflict where like it just things literally fall apart, and you're dealing with a social breakdown of like this war and rape and like absolute hell on earth. We're not there, and I don't know if we will even ever really get there. But
not widespread.
But you will have to deal with government tyranny. You will have to deal with federal incompetence. Okay, so does that mean everything's shit? No, and I would consider this time period in history, because things are falling apart. Opportunity is infinite. It's absolutely explosive.
Yeah. That's what Ivan Throne says as well.
Yeah. You have all the tools. You have all the tools that every major media company has to do anything you want with. You have, like I just said, you have the ability to form networks. You have the ability to broadcast a message. You have the ability to create an email list. You have the ability to curate your intelligence and information sources. You have the ability to reach people. You have the ability to do business. You can do anything you want. Yeah. And the barriers to education for anything are like they're non-existent. Zero. You want to learn something? You want to get in touch with somebody? You can do that. Yeah, I'm astounded, from people using, like Twitter and LinkedIn especially. Like you can get in touch with the world's experts in so many different subjects, and actually have a conversation with them, through messages and learn from them directly. I mean that's just unprecedented. The flow of information, the control of our information, our ability to leverage our existence, against the vast social order. Like it's never been like that in human history ever. For most of human history, 100 years ago, even 20 years ago, to be a known person, the idea of like being a known person, creating a network, building your own kind of world, how would you have done that? Calling people on the phone, sending emails?
Right.
Like that was not an idea in the social consciousness at all. That was even possible. Today, anyone can do that. People are doing it by the thousands every day because they have the tools. And some of them realize how powerful this is. So I mean that I'm very optimistic about. Like I just find it extraordinary. The social decay, breakdown, dissolution. Like you do have to accept at a certain point that not every epoch in human history is wonderful and good and as I said, ascending. Like sometimes things are rough. You can compare it maybe to living through the United States during like 1930s. It's like, wow, this is really shitty right now. Like perhaps it'll get better. It did get better, obviously. But it was a rough decade. It was.
Fair.
Okay.
Very fair.
So it is. So deal.
So speaking of forming networks, you have your inner circle, and a lot of those guys came together and formed Chatistan.
Yeah.
And some of those guys were here. What was it like meeting the guys from Chatistan?
That was really fucking cool. I actually did not know they were going to show up. And then when they basically, I was talking to them last night. They're like, yeah, we thought we'd just kind of surprise you.
And who were the guys that were here?
Robert was here. Devin was here. KG was here. Kilo was here. I think
Sean.
Sean was here. Yeah, quite a few actually.
Yeah.
And that was just really cool. And yeah, like I had very personal conversations with all of them, and thanking me, like, thank you for changing my life. And that, I'm like, I mean, you did that, like, but thank you. But yeah, it was very gratifying. Like, when I started that group over a year ago, it started sort of like a fitness group, and some guys signed up that I guess they liked me. They liked me. It's like, oh, it's a cool guy. Okay. It really demonstrated to me like the power of creating like a network of friends. And men, it's a very cliche thing to say, but like iron does sharpen iron. If you get men together and you give them a common cause and orientation to improve themselves and better themselves and develop themselves, like you can do extraordinary things. The most powerful force in the world is a group of men working together, having those kinds of relationships. So, and it's only been like a year. So I imagine a few years from now, like we're gonna do cool stuff.
Did it hit a little different? I mean, obviously you've heard men say to you before, thank you for changing my life. I mean, as the figure of speech, yes, you did that, but as the figure of speech, like, thank you for having a positive impact on my existence.
Yeah.
But did it hit different to meet the men in person that spent over a year with, like chatting daily, sometimes hundreds of messages a day?
Yes.
Did it hit a little different?
It did. Yeah, like, I mean, I get messages all the time from guys where they got a program or multiple programs and follow me a while. Like, just it's in the DMs, right? You're like, oh, thanks so much, dude. Like, I'm proud of you. That's cool. Yeah. But when you see a guy in person, you're like, wow, like this really like changed their soul. It's changed their whole trajectory of their life. Like, fuck. Okay.
So you've just come from the gym?
Yeah, obvious. Very. Right. I don't normally dress like this, go out like this. I'm not that vain. I came from training. I was with Tanner and Jack and Arthur. We trained shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What role does fitness play in the life of a man?
Fitness can be everything. I'm like, I mean, like it's almost like a running joke at this point. Like you've probably heard me say this. Like if I have to tell you that like you need to be strong as a man, like you're not going to make it, right? But like you're not. Like, no, it's just it's a fundamental aspect of male reality. It is the most distinct characteristic of masculinity, masculine energy, yang energy, that strength is what defines you. Hardness, power, kinetic force, like that's masculine. Everybody knows it's masculine. Like both men and women intuitively, when we see that, when we witness it, that's powerful. Like that is what a man is. So you have to train that. You have to embody it. You got to embody it. You lift weights. You do combat sports. You do something that requires you to physically apply yourself and apply your will to reality. Like one of the ways I frame the fundamental difference between feminine and masculine existence, men move the world by force, by direct action, a man of action. Women will the world to move. They do it by soft power, by persuasion, by enticement. It'd be very disparate for a woman to try to very kinetically force things to happen. Like that's masculine energy. Same thing vice versa. For a man to try to be persuasive and use soft power that way, you can, but like it's very Machiavellian. Yeah, and within within both the masculine and feminine, like you can do both.
Sure, of course.
A lot of what soft power is in like the world of like the sort of the shadow world that exists beneath the surface, beyond like the pretense of what is seen is it's manipulation. It's a Machiavellian manipulation. It's building relationships. It's knowing how to phrase things and use people's emotions and form alliances, and it's men, and men obviously do that. But there's a sort of feminine dynamic to it, and vice versa. Like a lot of times for women to be effective in the world today, they have to be more masculine. They have to be more direct. But speaking about the characteristics on a very just like pure, unmixed, homogenous level, strength is masculinity, and masculinity is strength. Those things are operated on a feedback loop. It's a virtuous cycle. So you gotta work out. You gotta lift weights. Like I always say that jokingly, but seriously. Like, what do I do? Like, what's my business model? I'm like, well, I tell guys to lift weights, and that changes their whole world. It does.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very successful. I mean, Fight Club Physique.
Yeah.
Let's just talk a bit about that because I think we've spoken about it before. Like, that was a huge thing during COVID for a lot of men.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was very derivative, obviously. Fight Club Physique. A lot of guys have seen that movie, but. Yeah. I realized as the lockdowns happened, I was like thinking about like, okay, my business, like people are going to work training at home. I'm like, all right, well, this is an opportunity for yourself this year to establish the habit of fitness and health, to train, to get physically in shape. And as I kind of talk about in the book, like you have to just dispense with all the fuckery. It's like there's going to be a lot of things in the news that are going to anger you and upset you, and you're going to want to argue about it, and this is going to feel so important. None of it means shit if you're a fat piece of shit. No one cares what you think. You're slovenly and you got 28% body fat, BMI is 35. Like, look at yourself. Like, what is there about you to respect? Nothing. So do the push-ups, do the workouts, start training. And, maybe a year from now, like now you're a man of action, you're a man of intention. Like, okay, you have the means now to actually change your life the way you want. You're not so reactive to everything.
If you could put anything on a billboard, what would you put on a billboard?
That's a stupid question. That's a stupid, terrible question. No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's a stupid question.
We set that up beforehand.
Yeah, we set that up. This is not me being an asshole on purpose.
It's not me being an idiot on purpose.
Yeah. So we live in this modern discourse, this modern social discourse, what we call like global homo culture. Which, to clarify for a lot of people, like what does that mean? It's not global homo culture is not about homosexuality.
Yes.
It refers to global homogeny. So everything is the same. Everything has to be the same everywhere. Everybody has to think the same and agree the same, and it's shared values, thoughts. There's no differentiation. There's no intellectual diversity at all.
Yes.
That's what global homoculture is. So there's this question I've seen arise. I've even been asked this on podcasts the last so many years of like, if you could put anything on a billboard, what would it be? Like there's this universal message that you're going to deliver to people, and because you are just so of God that truly you must have profound thoughts in your head and mind and your soul. And,
Chad Jesus.
Share with me like what you would say to people.
The word of Chad Jesus.
Yeah, and I think it's this contrite bullshit. Human beings are diverse. The world is diverse. There's many civilizations. There's infinite kinds of people. There are messages that are divine and that they are universal. In regards to treating people well, respecting others. People want to love. Yeah, absolutely. Is there a message that you could put on a billboard, a commercial billboard, and like that would inspire great change? Not really.
Lift weights.
Yeah. Unfuck yourself. Oh, that's really. It's very pithy. It's supposed to be pithy and quotable, and like you're gonna put that in your bio, your LinkedIn bio, and it's like I hate all that fuckery. So no, I wouldn't put anything on a billboard.
Where can people go to learn more about you, what you do?
So I have a newsletter that I've operated now for 5 years, and the newsletter is where I actually hopefully give the impression that I'm an intelligent person. So newsletter, it's emails obviously, but that's where I actually do like long form discourses, missives on a variety of subjects, both fitness and philosophical and intellectual, political, so on and so forth. Obviously, I have my Twitter account, AJA_Cortez. Instagram, I use Instagram a lot now for sort of like photo essays, which is really cool. I think Instagram's an incredible art medium. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate it for that, but it is. So newsletter, Instagram, Twitter. And then my DMs, honestly, are always open as well. Like, I've never actually closed them, so if anyone sends me a message, you'll probably hear back.
Yeah, one of the speakers, I think it was Socrates, spoke very highly of your newsletter. It's a great newsletter.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty diverse subject matter. I mean, if I was to recreate the newsletter today, it'd probably be on Substack. I charge for it, but it's free. Yeah, and that's the best place to reach me as well, since I always check those emails and correspond with people.
Where can people sign up for that? Through your Twitter account or for?
Through Twitter account, through this website, Cortez.site.
Okay.
Very simple.
Perfect. Thank you, Alexander.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Yeah. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. This is Will Spencer with the Renaissance of Men here with the New 21 Report and Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez. Thanks so much.